my friend who's been there all along. The only Italian I know that prioritized Canadian soccer over Italian soccer every single year I knew him is Dan Riccio, former voice of Canada Soccer, now trader in Vancouver, but still my friend. What's up, brother?
Don't tell the folks in Woodbridge that. I might lose some street cred.
Nah, you know it's true, though. Don't lose street cred. I was texting with a buddy last night whose parents are British, and he signed off the phone call with Go England, and I was like, what do you mean, Go Canada? And then he went, oh, yeah, obviously Canada. I think soccer fans are still getting used to this.
They really are. I mean, like, forever growing up, it was like, yeah, well, I would cheer for Canada if they were actually in a major international tournament, but that's like that's never going to happen, or that's not even realistic right now. And here we are. I mean, the 2022 World Cup was a dream, and now this. I mean, they've got a chance to potentially shock the world and win Copa America if they figure this out in these next couple of games.
Oh, God, I genuinely can't believe that is an actual possible reality. Again, it's long shot. They're going to be playing Argentina. It's like they won the World Cup, and they already beat Canada in this tournament. But Richie Larea had a quote where he said that Canada's a very different team from when they first played Argentina in this tournament, in the opening match of Copa. Do you think that's real? And if so, how?
I just think they're more comfortable with Jesse Marsch and how he wants them to play. And that's because we're still so very early in Jesse Marsch's tenure as Canada manager. You know, they had those first two friendlies against the Netherlands and France. And, you know, they played okay against the Netherlands in the first half of that first friendly. Then they just got absolutely throttled in the second half. It was kind of similar to what happened with Argentina in the first match of this tournament. I think a lot of that is due to their assignments, missing some assignments, tactically leaving gaps, leaving space. And they did that against Argentina. So they've gotten better as the tournament's gone on. That's what I think Richie Larea is pointing to. There's also a better confidence about the squad now that they've gotten some wins under their belts. So I get what he's saying. Obviously, the talent is the same, maybe a little bit less with Tejan Buchanan out.
Yeah.
But for me, it comes down to how they play with Jesse Marsch's system just growing more into place.
So what are your first impressions then of Marsch's system? And I guess him as a coach in general.
So I think as a coach, he's done an unreal job early on here with this team. You know, getting them to buy in, getting them to believe. I think the decision to put the captaincy on Alphonso Davies has proven to be a bit of a stroke of brilliance by him to this point so far. As far as tactically, I mean, I do have my doubts, and this goes back to just how Jesse Marsch has always coached, whether it was at Leeds United in the Premier League or, you know, just the way he coached his Red Bull squads in the Bundesliga and in Austria, where he first really started to gain momentum as a coach deserving of big jobs. And it's comes down to like just how they play, right? It kind of feels like kamikaze football at times. Like you're so high octane, high press that you leave big gaps open and you play a high defensive line, and you have a moment like what happened against Venezuela where you get caught after a couple of passes and then, you know, a guy's on a breakaway or he's able to score from half because even your keeper's playing out so far to try and really compress the field to be a lot smaller and put pressure on your opponent. So there is a high risk element to that. And I wonder at times how Canada is able to execute that. It's worked so far in this tournament. They've been helped by, you know, 2 red cards with their opponents, but Argentina really crushed them in the first game when we saw them get breakaway after breakaway. And that's kind of my worry going into tonight is that going to get exposed again?
The way that I usually judge a coach is, hey, do you get the best out of your best players? Do you feel as though he's getting that?
I think he's getting – look, the finishing hasn't been there, but both Jonathan David and Kyle Larin have played well for me in this tournament, you know, in the way that they've been able to – generate chances and get opportunities. But, you know, we're talking about a completely different feel of these guys if they, you know, have a couple more goals to their name, especially on Kyle Larin's front. as far as Davies goes, I mean, he's the most important player in the tournament, and for Canada, he's the most important player on the field every time out. I think you'd love to see Davies be more offensive. You want that for him, but also he's not being asked to do that. He's not being asked to be that guy for this team. He has to generate a little, of course, but playing in a left back and really cementing him in that left back role, whereas John Herdman would kind of play him all over the place before, it's cementing his role on this team, what he's meant to do, how he's meant to play. He'll grow into more offensive abilities and more freedom offensively. But for now, I think he's gotten a lot out of Davies as a leader. And I think that's huge because, like, if you think back to the World Cup and some of the things that went wrong for Canada, Davies tried to put on the hero cape and do it all himself. And we saw it even in the first couple of friendlies against Netherlands, certainly against the Netherlands. And that's not going to work, especially when you're playing top teams. And I think Davies has really bought into his role and also bought into, like, I've got to trust my teammates more. Yeah. And Canada's been better for it overall. And that's one of the things I think that Jesse Marsch has done a really good job of so far.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I've in the past I felt like, oh man, this has to be all Davies. This has to be all Davies. And that yet this tournament, I felt a little bit more like, need a little bit more from Davies, need a little bit more offensive punch from Davies, that there hasn't been enough times where he's put the defense on their heels and that he's created, right? Like, look at the tournament Shaffelburg's had, for example. I'm like, well, shouldn't this be more Davies than it is Shaffelburg?
Yeah. Sure, but Shaffelburg is in a very different role. He is in that kind of energy. Yeah. We're going to throw the ball down the wing, and you're just going to, like, run after it and cause chaos for the opponent. And he's done really, really great at that. And I mean, he did that all the way back in his TFC days, but that's another conversation. Maybe we'll have.
No, I'll never
later.
Forgive TFC. I'm not even kidding. I texted this to you, and I've talked about this with everybody. And again, I had no idea, but I will never root for TFC for trading Jacob Shaffelburg for cash. Like, I've always been a proponent of, you always cheer for all the teams in the city, and I cheered for TFC when they won, and I have since gone to games and enjoyed them. I will never forgive them. Like, it's like some Red Sox fans didn't forgive the team for the Mookie Betts trade. That's the way I feel about TFC. I cannot believe that they had genuinely one of the most marketable players in the country's history at their disposal, and they move the guy for cash, and now he plays in Nashville? I'm like, no, this is just, it's an inexcusable mistake. But anyway, sorry, go back to what you're saying. I guess what I meant is, I really did kind of feel like maybe one of the strengths would be, now that they have Shaffelburg and now that they do have a second guy that I thought could kind of unlock that offense, that zip through the side that you're talking about, I would have thought that they would have more of that from Davies and Shaffelburg and feel like you had both of those guys threatening constantly, rather than it feeling as though it is more Shaffelburg doing it.
Yeah, it's just that it's a simple fact of Shaffelburg is in a more offensive position than Alphonso Davies is. And, Davies, absolutely, like, when he is playing left back and he's playing at Bayern Munich, he can bomb up that left side, and, there's enough talent on the squad that they'll cover for him and they'll make up for it. Whereas, with Canada, you have to be a little bit more conservative. And I think that's played out here. As time goes on, I think you want to see Davies have a little bit more offensive freedom. But for what he's done and what it's meant in the tournament, I think it's fine for what we've seen so far. Now that you don't have Tajon Buchanan on the wings, you need to ask more of, Liam Miller offensively, and you need Jacob Shaffelburg to keep being one of the stars of this tournament as he has been, because, like, Canada just doesn't have enough in those wing spots. Yeah. And it's going to be something that they really have to find going into the 2026 World Cup over the next year and a half.
Yeah, and we haven't felt it as much so far, but that's where just losing Tajon Buchanan, I think, you're going to really feel in this game. When they need that substitution and they're down a goal or maybe two in this game, hopefully not, but if it does happen, man, he was kind of like the revelation of the World Cup. Like, you really felt as though his stock went up the most out of any Canadian player, right? That and it paid out. Like where he's now with he's with Inter?
Yeah, he's with my most hated team of all time.
Right. Yeah, he's with Inter Milan. He jumped there. And do you think, I'm curious, do you think the same thing is now going to happen for Jacob Shaffelburg? After this run, like, does he stay as an MLS player, or does a big club look at this and go, no, this guy clearly can play on this stage this way. He belongs up a league?
I think there is, like, potentially a move in Europe for him should he want it this summer. I mean, there's no way what he's done, what he's put on paper in this tournament isn't getting noticed. Yeah. Like, he's been legitimately one of the best players in the tournament. You look at all the statistics as well.
I was going to say, I don't know soccer analytics, but everything I've seen is that he's been the most impactful player other than Messi by the analytics.
Yeah, like expected goals, everything. And if you put it on a per 90 basis, per 90-minute basis, because he was a substitute for a large part of the beginning of this tournament, I'm sure he'd rank even better, maybe even better than Messi in some statistics. So, I mean, he's been incredible. And you've seen this in Shaffelburg for a long time. I mean, the speed, the ability to take players on one-on-one, it's always kind of been there, and he really puts defenders on their heels, and it works in this system with Jesse Marsch that really needs a lot of exactly that from its wing players. And when you've gotten that out of Shaffelburg, this team has played at its best, and it's why he sort of started to win the job over Tejan Buchanan, who got off to a slow start in this tournament. But you're so right about Buchanan not being able to come off the bench. You know, having one of Shaffelburg or Buchanan be able to come on as a substitute and really bring some fresh legs into the game, that's something that Canada has relied upon. So it's going to be something that they definitely miss tonight. But Shaffelburg's got to move in Europe. If he wants it, like even a move to, the championship, the second division in England, I think that's somewhere where he could really have success. But if you're able to find a move to one of those bigger leagues in Europe, like that's everything to a lot of these Canadians. Buchanan did it last tournament. Looks like Moise Bombito is going to do it in this tournament with Lyon looking at him. So these are things that help the Canadian men's national team grow. More players in the top 5 European leagues. That's only going to mean more success for the future of our nation on the soccer pitch moving forward.
So I think this was the other thing I want to ask you going into tonight, right? Because when I set up the tournament with Sid, he talked about it being all gravy, right? Hey, Canada gets these matchups against elite level competition. It's the best preparation they're going to have for the World Cup. And that's the way that I've tried to look at this is, all right, as frustrated as some people were with the way they beat Chile, I think specifically, right, where they're up a man the entire match, and it felt like such a sweat, where it was, holy crap, they qualified, but don't you have some mixed feelings? And I went, yeah, I had mixed feelings in terms of would I have wanted Canadian soccer to be better, but no, we still looked at this as no one really believed that they were going to qualify. No one believed that they were going to be in a position where they're in a semifinal. They've added $6 million to the coffers in prize money already so far in this tournament, which is going to, from what I understand, I've asked people around, I'm like, how meaningful is this money? Like, is this just kind of a drop in the bucket? And everyone's like, this is a ton of money for the program. This is a huge allotment of money that means something to Canada soccer and is going to help them continue to develop. So the money side of it, I completely understand. I have been happy when you look at the body of work and you go, they played friendlies against France and Netherlands, and they ended up with a draw. You add that to Peru and Chile and Argentina so far, and now Venezuela, and you're looking at this with, multiple wins, multiple draws, and losses to only the Netherlands and Argentina. Like, that's incredible. That's incredible what they've been able to do over this run. My question is, though, when you're looking at it and you're watching it, because this is what it's all about, right? It's all gravy because this is development for these guys. We've seen a breakout for Shaffelburg, right? We've seen, I think, a little bit more from David as the tournament's gone on, which is a good thing. I still need more. If you're supposed to be one of the best goal scorers in all of Europe, and you're one of the keys to unlocking this team as like a true danger, I want to feel like you're more of a threat. But whatever. You mentioned Bobbito. Where have you seen the development so far for Canada soccer? Like, what are you most optimistic about from watching this run, starting with those friendlies against France and the Netherlands that they were participating in to prepare for this tournament?
I think the composure that they've played with for the most part has been pretty impressive. Now, look, composure in different parts of the game hasn't always been there. Like the scoring part, they've missed a ton of chances.
Yeah.
That's kind of something that's plagued Canada soccer for basically my entire life and for the entire history of the program. But unless it's Christine Sinclair. But it's really something that, like, you're in a close match and you're not giving up too much. You're staying with it and not losing patience, staying with the game plan. Those are things that I think are very important for this team where, like I mentioned earlier, you go a goal down or you're in a tight match, you want to get the win. Davies tries to play hero ball and it causes all kinds of problems elsewhere on the field. Like, those are things that I think are very important, and composure in big matches, in big stages, is extremely difficult. Like that game against Venezuela, they lost their composure a little bit on the 1-1 goal, but the way they handled the penalty shootout in front of what was a 99% Venezuela crowd, that's a hostile environment you played in, and you played pretty well. They held their own against Argentina for large parts of that match, first time around in this tournament. So, there are moments of this composure that I think matters big time when you start planning and seeing the core of this team getting ready for a World Cup on home soil. That's why getting into this tournament was so massive. It was a grind for them to get into this tournament too, having to go through the playoff against Jamaica, but getting into this tournament is massive. And now having a little bit of success in it is even bigger because this program, these players as a group just haven't been in these situations together, but now they can say that they have.
God, I'm so happy they are too, because it really did feel post-World Cup like there was a real loss of momentum, People came back and they were like, the first game against Belgium was successful and there was a moment there, right? They had the lead against Croatia where you thought, but the rest of the tournament, they did leave you wanting. I would say that it was successful that they were there and it was a growth experience, but you didn't come away from the Olympics going, this is incredible. And then you lose Herdman. You end up in a position where you're borrowing money from MLS teams to hire Marsch. And Marsch comes in, too, without a ton of fanfare. And I'll admit it, I looked at it on paper and went, sorry, this guy's greatest accomplishment was that he had a star European soccer player who, I'm aware of, on his team in a lower league and had success, and then everywhere else he went didn't. Sid came on and said that his English club called him Ted Lasso, that he was an American coach with a spotty resume, and I went, and Sid went, but this is a good thing for him. We had controversies over where the money is and what was going to happen with the future of the program and whether they were going to be able to attract certain players to come play for Canada and convince them that Canada was the place that they should be if given a tougher decision. And to have this Copa run, to me, it's so meaningful because it has just completely rejuvenated the thing that everybody has wanted, which is to support this team, to care about this team, and to feel optimistic heading into the World Cup, not like, oh my God, this is going to be an embarrassment. It's going to be, oh my God, I cannot wait to go to these games. I cannot wait to see how we've developed and how we are going to be moving forward. And to me, what you said about that composure stuff, that's why the Venezuela game was so monumental for me. Is I thought everything they were doing before was, as Sid said it, gravy. That they were playing without any weight of expectation. And then sometimes, like in the Chile game, it felt like they were choking a little bit because they went, oh my God, we're supposed to be winning this game now, right? They played 2 games where they're up a man, and it felt as though that pressure was visible. And when they played Venezuela, it's like you were a team that was not necessarily expected to win, but it was not going to be a shocking upset. This was not what it is going to be tonight, right? If you win this game. And they played damn well the entire time. They had that weight of expectation on a major stage, and they came through. And that more so than anything has me feeling like, wow, I can believe tonight, and I can believe moving forward going to the World Cup. And mostly I can just believe that we're going to continue to see progress with Canadian soccer rather than just going into another lull period.
100%. You know, and a lot of what this is planning to have some success in 2026, and they've set themselves up well for that. Like, this is a program that still never won a game at a World Cup, right? Going back to '86 and obviously going in 2022. So now you have World Cup games on home soil. You're going to play in Vancouver. You're probably going to play a match in Toronto, of course. Like, do you have a chance? You're going to probably get a favorable group. You got to win some of those games and have some success in the first ever 48-team World Cup. This is setting up those moments. Obviously, there's still places that this team needs to grow and hopefully find some more talent. I think up front, you want to have more options, certainly on the wing, at striker, in midfields. Like, if Eustachio and Kone aren't going, you really feel a lack of strength in the midfield, and that's something I think that's sort of come up in this tournament right now, but they've found a way to manage through it, and I think that's a sign of a team really coming along and going back to that the composure things that I was talking about. All of these things are in the context of, it's gravy, but also, like, if we're going to set ourselves up for success, these are the things we've got to really start owning as a team, and they've done that in this tournament. You know, of course, players are still going to come along. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have things that pop up, but when you buy into a team ethos and you really buy into a manager, we saw it in the early stages of the Herdman era, you know, a lot can happen. And that's sometimes half the battle on the international stage. And Canada's got that down so early in the Jesse Marsch era. I think that's a huge positive moving forward.
All right. So you ready for the first take portion of the show?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. I got a Messi first take.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, soccer casual, hand up. Don't know a lot about the beautiful game. Don't follow it and track it around. Don't have a club team, although kind of West Ham. But basically, I think I'm going to go where Shaffelburg goes and just be a team of, if he goes to Europe, that'll be the thing. I'm just going to follow my son and care about Maritime Messi. But Messi, I was thinking about him and his legacy in all of this. And I went, okay, it's a major tournament. It's the last time he's going to play internationally. And yet, for me, it doesn't feel like there's any stakes because he's already one of the greatest ever to play the game. A lot of people now think he is the greatest. That was the big conversation after the World Cup is, hey, Messi is the GOAT. Messi is the GOAT. It's undeniable. He is now the GOAT, right? Even Sid came on the show who called him a fraud at one point and said, no, he's tipping the cap and he's giving him the GOAT status. I don't think Messi has anything to gain in this tournament. Like, I don't think we're going to look at the added Copa title if he gets there and say, well, wow, this was another major feather in the cap. Again, casual's take, just my position for where he is right now. But I do think that a loss to Canada, he has something materially to lose. Where when you look at the game's greatest players, are we going to be able to find something on the resume internationally that is as big of a loss as Argentina losing to Canada in the semifinals of a Copa, where, again, it's going to be 90% Argentina fans? Like, does Messi have something to lose? Does he have room for his legacy to grow? Which way is it in terms of the greater potential? I think it's unquestionably has more to lose.
I don't think he really has much to lose.
See, I knew you would go with me on first take. I knew you would.
It's just... There is no, like, I get what you're saying, and losing to Canada would sort of be like, how did Messi lose to Canada? There's definitely going to be a feeling of that.
Yes.
But it's more going to be, what an incredible upset by the Canadians to pull this off. But Messi's legacy is made.
Yeah.
The guy's won the Ballon d'Or like 1,000 times, best player in the world. He's won the World Cup. Like, when Maradona, like, just absolutely destroyed his career after the '86 World Cup, the hand-to-God goal. Yeah. You know, he built an incredible resume over the '80s, and then the '90s, guy played in the '94 World Cup. Do you think anybody really remembers Maradona in '94? No, they remember like the guy who was a problem off the field, to put it nicely, right? So it didn't matter because he's one of the greatest players of all time. Messi is, for me, the greatest player I've ever seen. And old folk might want to debate whether it's Maradona, Pele, whatever. Sure. But Messi is the greatest player that's ever played the sport of soccer.
And he's unquestionably the greatest player of his generation.
Tonight is going to take that away from him.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's going to take it away from him, but I will say that I will play that chit forever and ever. Without having known what loss Maradona's had, what loss Pele's had, I will always point to this and be like, so I went to the dip for Canada-Argentina, Reach.
Yeah.
And there were Argentina fans there, and they were the most classless individuals I've ever seen in any sport. Like, I'm telling you, I was, like, blown away, disgusted. How many bars have I been to? How many sporting events have I been to? Like, for me to say that was the worst behavior I've ever seen by a fan base, like, that should mean something. That's not like, oh, you're a casual sports fan. Like, this is me. This is a guy who has lived in sports bars for decades now. This is someone who has gone to every type of sporting event there ever has been. And Argentina fans that were there that night, the absolute unquestionable worst. So I will never root for Argentina at any major tournament. Whoever Argentina plays from this point forward, that is my favorite team. I love that team. Like, give me that team. I don't care who it is. Root, boo Argentina. If Canada beats them tonight, I'm going to be the new Sid in terms of trashing Messi's legacy. Like, I will never stop bringing up this loss. The first thing I do whenever I meet anybody who even remotely roots for Argentina is bring this up. Like, I need it. I need this so badly. I've never cared so much about a result. Like, this upset means the world. Please, Canada, get this done. Please find a way, find a miracle, crush Argentina's spirits, humble them, and then let the rest of us be happy. That's where I'm at. I will first take it. I will take that Messi take to the bank time and time again, like LeBron in the open lane. I will not care.
I can't wait to see you potentially wearing a Uruguay or Colombia jersey
sign me up.
This one.
Sign me up. Uruguay. All I know about them is they used to have the biter. I loved that guy. They were an amazing FIFA team. So they had two guys.
Man, he's still on the team. Luis Suarez is still on.
He's still on the team. The biter's still around. Nice. Let's
he's
go,
still
biter.
Around, man. That guy. I mean, he's Messi's teammate in Miami now. So,
hell yeah, biter. Oh, got it. I hope he bites Messi on his stupid face if they make it to the finals. Hope he chops him right in the middle of the pitch. Gotta be so sweet. Hey, Dan, again, this is an awesome moment. I remember, again, watching in a sports bar, you with the Honduras game, screaming at you, why did you make me care? Because you hyped up that game and we went out together. And I really do get excited for guys like you tonight who have been with this program from, childhood, who have always cared, who have had like no moments where it's really meaningful, and mostly people have like mocked it and been like, why do you care about this? Like, tonight is cool, tonight is special. Soak it in, brother. I'm happy for you.
I'm just happy that we've got big games to watch and cheer our country on for.
Hell yes. All right, see you, Danny. Talk to you later, buddy.